Hi everyone, my name is Chris and I'm actually a photographer in Singapore. I specialize in events, portraits, and I do it part-time as well as full-time for about 9 years now. So lately, as everyone knows, the Z6II and the Z7 by Nikon has been released, or rather announced. And to be honest, I was kind of excited about it, given that the mirrorless system I feel is the future. And personally, I've invested in a Z6 myself. So when I was watching the announcement by Nikon 2 days ago, I thought I had some thoughts about some of the specs that were highlighted, as well as some of the so-called changes that Nikon mentioned. So here are my thoughts as a working photographer, and I would say a budget working photographer, because I am not someone who is very famous. I do not command rates of more than 10,000 per shoot, for example. So I believe that my thoughts will resonate with some of the other budget photographers who usually prefer to think about the cost value performance for purchases, especially regarding their main camera for work. So let's go. Some of the things that they highlighted were the following. So it has better autofocus, it has faster frame rates, a greater buffer capacity, 4K 60 video. Oh, this one I have to we have to go deeper on it later. Dual card slot. This was the killer that everybody wanted in the original Z6. And finally, the ability to shoot using a vertical battery grip. So the ability to shoot using a vertical battery grip. So some of the enhancements within the Z6, first of all, includes or are driven by the dual XP6 processor engines. So apparently, because of this inclusion of a second XP6 processor, it has a 3.3 times buffer capacity. How they measure this, I am not entirely sure. I suspect that it is 3.5 times according to using 14-bit shooting, raw, uncompressed. I will have to check this later using my Z6. And it mentioned that because of the upgrade for the processors, there is now 14 FPS for stills versus 12 for the original Z6I. And they also mentioned during the announcement, they also mentioned that there is a minimization or optimization on the blackout times during continuous shooting for the EVF and the LCD. So that's for the processor upgrades. And another thing is IAF. So the Z6 Mark II has now so-called improved eye detection for humans and pets. Pets, I assume that they only mean cats and dogs, because I am sure that anybody with the Z system has tried the Firmware 3.0, whereby cats and dogs, the camera focuses on the eye, or it catches the eye for cats and dogs, but not for other animals. Personally, I myself am a casual birder, so I like to go shooting in our nature reserve in Singapore and get some shots of birds here and there. And to my knowledge, or maybe it's my error, please correct me if I'm wrong, the bird's eyes do not get captured within the Z6 and Z7. I hope that this new upgrade takes it to the level of the Canon R5 and R6. I'm not hoping for much, but hey, we can wish for something, yes? The other one is that apparently there is this improved mode for IAF, which it allows for photographers or videographers to shoot in a normal or wide area setting while restricting the area or the zone that the camera will actually detect the eyes. So I assume that it allows for a more granular approach when you are shooting. For example, you have an obstacle here, your main subject is here. You can specify the eye autofocus to only focus on this part so as to ignore the obstacle or the thing that you do not want to be focused in. Mm. Another thing is that video. Yes, since we are talking about video autofocus, I might as well move into video. They claim that the Z6 has 4K Ultra UHD at 60p. I have actually read through the DP review spec sheet as well, and DP review has kindly stated that the 60p is only available next year, number one. The second point is the 60p is only available in APS-C crop. So I think that many photographers right now are already thinking like, oh crap, it's the crippled camera function again, right? Most cameras in the past, they already had this annoying 1.5 times crop or whatever crop that is in camera that makes wide angle lenses basically useless, right? Because after you add the 1.5 times crop, for example from the 24 to 70, you will get a 36 to 105 if it's 1.5, yes? So there goes your wide angle, am I right to say so? So vlogging is basically out of the question unless you really like to see the person's face. And yeah, and another thing is you have to actually wait for a firmware update. So why not just update the original Z6 and Z7 with this then? Since you are delivering it via firmware update, I'm sure that they will say that this limitation is due to the processor power or the lack thereof of their processor power. So let's take it, instead of a Mark II, we can think of it as a Z6S. If you go by the earlier terminology used by Nikon, whereby every iterative update is done with an S instead of a full jump in the number. Think of the D300S, the D3S, those are really old cameras. Another thing is, okay, some of the good things, of course, is the batteries. We can continue using our ENEL15 batteries right up to the original ENEL15 batteries. So you don't have to buy any of the new ENEL15Cs. You can if you want, because the 15Cs do allow the photographer to charge the battery in camera, or it allows for USB power delivery. And talking about the power delivery, given that the Z6 is powered, the Z6 has the USB-C port. Nikon's announcement, they did mention that the USB-C port can be directly used for either power delivery or for live streaming. That is pretty useful, I feel. It definitely gives an added functionality for photographers or videographers looking to offer more services, especially in this COVID pandemic period. Am I right to say so? There are more, can I say, live video streaming jobs rather than live event jobs, for example. Or at least that's in Singapore. Dual card slots, the big one. You have the CF Express or XQD cards, for the main card slot, and the SD card slot as the secondary card slot. That will save a lot of people problems down the road, because definitely no matter what Nikon or any other company likes to say that the XQD card slot is very durable, it is always better to have insurance. Am I right to say so? I mean, I myself buy insurance in case I get cancer or something. What's the chances of me getting cancer? But hey, insurance is good, isn't it? Then the other one is dual processors, the inclusion of the second XP6 processors within the camera, driving upgrades to the frame rates, 12 to 14. The buffer capacity, apparently 3.3 times. I am not entirely sure how they are measuring this 3.3 time increase. There is also the upgrade for the vertical battery grip. So the original Z6 and Z7 didn't have the battery grip. The battery grip will be useful because it adds functionality, it adds the shutter button, the dial, definitely maybe slightly better ergonomics for people with large hands. Okay, it has better video, definitely. Wrong, let me correct that. It has better video, but how much better, how much more functionality you can get from the UHD 60p at the APS-C crop is very dependent on your use case. For myself, I feel that if you are a wildlife photographer, for example, or if you are a sports photographer, videographer, sorry, let me use the terms interchangeably, you need that extra reach, for example, for your telephoto lenses, you might find that the 60p is useful. In a normal use case, I believe that the APS-C crop is quite annoying. For example, when I try to get a landscape shot or an overview shot, okay, a long shot from establishing my film, for example, I would prefer to have an uncropped video to work with, so that I don't have to actually switch or carry an additional ultra wide, let's say a Nikon 10mm to 20mm lens, the one that is offered by Nikon, which is pretty cheap, to be honest. I do not want to carry that extra lens just to counteract the effects of this 1.5 times APS-C crop. Having checked the specs and the price list on DP Review, I did notice that the launch price for the Z6II will be, luckily or fortunately, the same as the Z6I, and I would say that's a good thing for a new buyer. So let's talk about the value proposition. For someone who already has the Z6 or the Z7, should you upgrade to the Z6II or the Z7II? It really depends on your use case. For myself, as a budget working photographer, I think no, I will not be upgrading. Why? What are you paying for, or what do you want when you are upgrading? Do you really need that second card slot? If you are an event shooter, a wedding shooter, maybe you do need that second card slot for insurance, for peace of mind. For some people, this few $100s spent for upgrading, assuming you sell your original Z6 and use that cash towards getting a Z6 Mark II or Z7 Mark II, okay, maybe for some people, for the peace of mind, for some people the peace of mind will definitely be worth it. For others, if you are already used to that one card slot, and to be honest, that XQD card and the CF card is not cheap, if you're already using that slot and you don't really see much of a problem with it, then stick with it. The two extra frame rates are not that big of a deal for myself, especially according to the spec sheet. I see that to get that extra 2 FPS, you have to limit yourself to single point. So I mean, technically you do have that extra 2 FPS, but hey, in what situation will you? I would say the use case for that 14 FPS is much more limited than the normal 12 FPS, which, hey, 12 is already more than enough in my opinion. The ISO is the same. The buttons are more or less all the same. Basically the entire camera looks to me the same. So please tell me, what are the features that you really liked? What are the features that are indispensable for you? And what are the features that are a deal breaker? For example, do you agree with what I say as a budget working photographer, maybe as an enthusiast as well, who wants to get the best value for your money? Okay, so leave your comments. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you really enjoy this content, and please feel free to subscribe. I will try to make more videos in the future from the perspective of a budget working photographer. Thank you very much, and see you.